So I got fired one time. I'm going to tell you the story, and it actually was one of the best things for my business ever. If we've never met, my name's Justin Conoco. If you're on the audio platform, I've already said this to you, but these people watching may not know. Own a brokerage in Southwestern Ontario in the real estate space. We are super unique from the capacity that we do all aspects of real estate: commercial, residential, investments, farms, new development, and recreational properties. Most brokerages only do one. We have focused diversification and a Navy SEAL team that handles it all, as well as agent partners all over the planet, in the Hamptons, Long Island, New York, Texas, BC, UK, wherever you want to do business, right? This story takes us all the way to Southwestern Ontario, Canada, to a very unique property, 100 acres off-grid, completely self-powered property with 100 acres of bush. Why does that matter? Well, if you're in the agricultural space, if it was 100 acres of farmland, that'd probably be worth $25,000 an acre. You could put a dollar value on that. But NE1 or natural environment one land is worth zero. It had a massive house on it, and it had a man-made lake, very unique property. Challenge with a property like that is you're talking to like 0.5% of the marketplace. Now, I was selling a commercial property to somebody from overseas who happened to be looking for something exactly like this. This was like 6 years ago. So it was right around Christmas time. Snow was crazy. We weren't even looking for a property like this, but happened to be with him and happened to be with a family member. And they're like, wait a second, let's go see this property. I called the agent. The agent's like, nope, you can't go see it. The owner's there. You know, he's had a bottle of wine. Probably not great if you guys go over there. And I'm on a plane flying away. And I'm like, no, like we need to go see this property. Like, I don't think you understand. I have the one person on the planet who actually would want to live here. Suffice it to say, we drive to the property. She and I have a great relationship. So that's where trust and community really, really matters. Drive to the property. I spent 9 hours showing this property, folks. 9 hours. You know, a lot of people think in the real estate space that you end up, just opening a door and getting paid tens of thousands of dollars, which may be true in some cases. But many times it is like the work you did up to that point that give you the opportunity to earn that money or not earn that money, right? So open the door, end up being there for 9 hours, taking a pile of notes, walk the entire property. And when I was walking the property with my client, I was actually telling him the reasons not to buy it. Why was I telling him the reasons not to buy it? Not because I didn't want to sell it to him, but because I knew that if he bought it, I was going to be the guy that had to resell it. So I wanted him to be aware of how secluded it was, the fact that it wasn't connected to any services and it was self-powered. Benefit to him, not necessarily a benefit to your conventional purchaser. The third thing was more the natural environment land, and that you can't do anything with it. Like the bush is great to have. You want to ride ATVs, dirt bikes, stuff like that. Fantastic. But you needed to be talking to a very specific segment of people for them to quantify a value on that land. I've actually even had appraisers call me because I sell very unique properties, asking me like, how would you even price this? And they can't pull comps because an appraiser, if they're appraising your house, looks at the closest comps within, half a kilometer radius of your house. And it has to typically be within the last 60 to 90 days, the sale. So if you pull a comp of my neighbor sold his house last year for this price, they don't care about that. It's the most recent sale in closest proximity. The challenge with very unique properties, you're not going to find recent sales in close proximity. So they call me because I know buyer sentiment and what types of properties these people are comparing apples to apples. So long story short, walking through the property, telling him all these things, and then we end up doing the deal, stay there for really late at night. And he said, I don't care about the resale of this home because I'm going to be here forever. Fast forward 2 years later, he calls me. He's like, I need to sell this property. I was like, oh, okay. I thought you said you're going to be here forever. Life changes, right? So if you're purchasing real estate, a good lesson for you is always when you make the purchase, think of your exit strategy, right? One of the biggest mistakes a lot of investors made in the last 5 years is real estate always goes up. Yeah, maybe over 10, 20, 30 years, but it cycles, right? So if you've built your investment strategy on strictly passive appreciation, you're gambling. That's not real estate investing. Story for another day. So we go to list the property, and I sat down with him, go through, talk about pricing and strategy. And I am very big on strategy. It's the only two things I'm really good at are strategy and content creation. That's the 10% that really matters. The 80% work the squad does. And then I come in and I make sure that that last 10% brings an unreasonable amount of value back to the client. I said to him out of the gate, this is going to take 4 years to sell. I'm like, I know you got to go. I'm like, there's a price for you to sell it where it's going to go very quickly. But he wants what he wants. And I know this client, and he's like, no, when he wants what he wants, like there's no negotiation. The price is the price, and that's what he's going to get for it. So the mandate was challenging. So I went out and I marketed the property like you wouldn't believe. I literally created like a full-blown movie around this property and ended up finding the one purchaser who actually wanted to buy this property and fell in love with it just like he did the first time around. Now the story gets a little bit more complicated. I said I got fired, but Justin, everything sounds so amazing until now. Yeah, it was till it wasn't. So we went through the process, and what this new person was going to do at the property required some changing to the zoning bylaw. We went to the municipal office. They were going to do something really cool that I think the community would have absolutely loved. Never happened because of the archaic system, and this property actually fell into like a dual zoning area where there's two municipalities. Both of them kind of postured up and became a bit of an issue. Deal fell apart, and that was probably 8 months on market. So a typical listing agreement could be anywhere 4 to 6 months. And you're always recycling that just based on, hey, you happy? Here's the work I'm doing. And it also keeps us fresh, right? You want to keep your agents sharp and make sure they're actually doing something and they have a plan. And we have a 16-week marketing plan that we always cycle. Unbeknownst to me, he had a really good friend that was a real estate agent that the entire time we were listed, apparently he was just giving him the gears of why didn't you list with me, making him guilt trip. And two issues with that. One, fun fact, if you are listed with a brokerage or an agent and they're selling your property and somebody's doing that to you, it's actually called tortious interference. It's a massive breach of the code of ethics across all of North America, as far as I know. And if somebody's willing to breach their code of ethics with you by doing that, do you think you could possibly trust them to represent you ethically in the sale of one of your largest assets? I'd ask you to ask yourself that question first. But I don't cry over spilt milk, and I'm always welcome to competition. So my next listing agreement ran out with him. And he said, hey, Justin, you've had it for 8 months. You know, we did this sale. You did great work. You know, love and appreciate you and the family. But like, I got to give it to my buddy just to shut him up. And I said to him, the relationship's more important to me than the transaction, right? I'm totally fine with you listing with this guy. If it doesn't work out, give me a call back. So long story short, I redeploy my resources somewhere else. We maintain a great relationship because I'm not a transactional broker. I don't have commission breath. You are still my friend, even if you go with the competition. Yes, I feel empathetic and feel bad because I probably could have done a better job or my system or whatever, right? I have that confidence in my business because I've got the results, but I don't make decisions for other people and I don't spend my time dwelling on it. I just focus on my actual business. So went on my merry way, did my thing. 2 years later, he calls me back. He had cycled through 2 more brokers and he said, Justin, went through 2 more agents. You were right. It's going to be a grind to sell this property. We hired 2 other brokers and we didn't have the interest that we had the first time that you listed the property. Would you take the sale back on? And he had actually increased the price, I think another $250,000 from the last time I had listed it. And I said, of course, like I told you we would, but guess what? Since you actually released me that first time around, we've leveled up all of our systems. So the version of Justin you met was like maybe an iPhone 7. I am now an iPhone 14 Pro Max. Let's talk. So we sat down, we actually came up with a completely new strategy and we ended up completely remarketing the video. Now I did cinematography. Yes, I had a marketing team. Yes, a lot of the things that I had concepts of the first time I listed the property were still how we structured it and rolled it out. But the level of improvement across those things had changed dramatically. And I'm going to give you the 3 secrets on what we improved so you can improve them in your business so that you can have an opportunity to earn more and then leave a transaction feeling absolutely amazing. The first thing was the prospecting piece, right? So we do a lot of organic and we do a lot of paid advertising. We generate 5 to 10 times the amount of leads as MLS. And if my clients can't understand that, then we shouldn't be working together. When I sit down with them, that's what I show them. Like they hire our platform because when we press play, the audience that it hits from an organic perspective is so trusted. It is builders, it is developers, it is mortgage professionals, real estate professionals, people that I have built thought leadership with for 10 years that you cannot buy that trust with. I don't care if you're Amazon. Amazon can't compete with me in my markets. I promise you that. Even globally, I would argue my outreach to certain markets. Like if I say Dr. Tangi's like, I want to buy a place in Manhattan and I want to work with Ryan Serhant, I can connect you with Ryan. He's my mentor. If I was like, hey, I want to go to Dallas, Texas, or I want to work in Atlanta with Glenda Baker, I can connect you with those people, right? So I worked really, really hard on building out that network. So from when he hired me the first time to the second, the version of Justin he got and the network he got was stacked in terms of my reach. The second piece of the prospecting was I thought of, okay, well, we generated that one client that really had the cool concept for it, but clearly that was an issue. How could we figure out more types of buyers to go find? So we started working on customer avatars. So instead of having one or two or really being stuck on what I said earlier, saying, oh, there's only 1% of the marketplace, I shifted my thinking. And I started thinking about, who could operate a business here? Who are the different types of people that could use this land to its maximum capabilities? We stumbled into ecotourism and different ways of using land that cannot be developed, but can be appreciated. And then we had an entire plan on how we were going to prospect differently than we did before. And then we went back to grassroots because I always think you want to do organic, you want to do paid, but old school still works. And here's a strategy for every agent listening that we did that actually killed. And it was, we canvassed our entire southwestern quadrant so you could drive within an hour and a half of this property because it's very unique and people will drive for unique properties. And we pulled every agent that sold the property from $1.5 million to $4 million in the last year. And then we made a list. So our prospecting was massively upgraded from the initial rollout. The second thing that we did was we learned, right? I talk about this all the time, how learning is such a massive piece of our business and how we continue to evolve. So the version of me you hire today or collaborate with me today, Justin iPhone 20 Pro Max, is going to be completely different because I'm never going to stop learning. On the cinematography side, the first video we did was great. It really showcased the property with some nice aerials. It had really nice music. People were leaving the video about 2.5 seconds in. So I learned that on YouTube, you've got 1.5 seconds to get people's attention. Are you looking for a lakefront property in one of the fastest growing markets in Southwestern Ontario? Stick around because in this video, I'm going to showcase a lakefront property in Grand Bend, Ontario. But you're going to want to pay attention to the water levels because they're very, very low right now. And if you buy a property in Grand Bend, you may be underwater in 7 years. So I probably hooked you in the first 2 seconds and then kept you by telling you what you're going to see. That was a massive unlock that we learned, was always tell people what they are buying in for. I did it when I started this video. I told you I was going to tell you how I got fired and give you 3 keys to success and how I made money from that experience. And that's what we learned. And that's what we started applying. And we actually spoke directly to the person who is now making money off that property. They bought it for a big price point, but it actually became an asset to their business. So we created assets to speak directly to those people, and we learned how to just evolve our production process. The last piece was the building block. I love what I do so much, and I assume my team and my clients know how hard I'm working for them, but I don't communicate it enough with them. And this is still a work in progress. So what we actually started doing was look at what do we communicating to our client in terms of our marketing efforts on a weekly basis, because I think the one place that we are continuing to try to build is telling people what we're doing. Because if we don't tell them what we're doing, they're assuming we're doing nothing like every other agent. Meanwhile, we are just devoting time, resources, and money to get to the end game. So the building component of what we learned from that first interaction to the last was massive. I looked at my standard operating procedure of when I have a client listed under contract over a 16-week period, how are we communicating with them, what's being done, and who's doing it? I'm not the person to do every single thing on a transaction. My goal or my skill, strategy, content creation, negotiations. That is the 20% that I can add that will bring you $500,000 more in your pocket than my competitor. I have data and case studies that I can show you that. So you don't care what percentage I charge if I make you more money. Sure, there's agents that might do it for 1 or 2% less than me. And if you save 30 grand on commissions, great. But if you leave 250 grand on the table, probably not so great, right? So I know that's where my value lies. I was the guy doing everything. So what I did from the initial time that I listed the property to the second time I sold it is I put systems in place. So I had it literally line by line what I did for my clients. And then I gave it to somebody and had that person do it for me. The last unlock I'm going to give you before I go to a Q&A session live on the Clubhouse app, you have to be in Breakfast with Champions for that. It is not live on this channel. If you want access to that, just go to justinconico.com. Hit me up in the newsletter. I'll send you the link for Breakfast with Champions. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal group of people that are driven, that are entrepreneurs and really looking to grow things, and has actually made this channel grow exponentially because it keeps me consistently here on Friday. Going back to what I was saying, the building component is making sure that you're itemizing things in such a way that it can be understood by somebody with a 5th grade level of education, and that they can handle it so you can focus on the bigger items. And it is as simple as saying, when we launch a listing, give them a list of this is what happens and this is who's responsible for it. Introduce them to your team so they recognize the names and the people that are involved in the transaction. On a weekly basis, what do my clients care about? Massive mistake I see new agents making is they write a novel email to their client. Your client doesn't want to read a novel. Your client just wants to know how many leads we get, how many showings did we get, what's the competition doing? So they want to know exactly active listings, conditionally sold, and interpretation of that data. Sold data only means so much. Why did that property sell for what it sold for? And those conversations are what people actually pay you for. And the most important question, what are you doing to get my property sold? Itemizing that and coming up with fresh strategies is what keeps you employed. And I think if you can focus on those 3 core components of your business, what are you doing to prospect? What are you learning today? And what are you actually building in terms of standard operating procedures or working on your business? Then you can have a similar story to the one that I did that started off great. The middle was a little bit rocky and could have defined me, but I didn't let it. Instead of taking adversity and letting it just grind me into the dirt and blame the other agent for the torturous interference and all these different things and just focus on that, I focused on the positive outcome. Resistance creates resilience, but you have to engage with the resistance. If you shy away from it, then you are going to look back in 5 or 10 years and be in the exact place you are today. So I want you to break the pattern, hit that subscribe and notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Going back to Clubhouse for a quick Q&A. I appreciate you being here. If there's any component of that story you want me to delve deeper into as well, I always do videos based on the audience feedback, but I appreciate you being here, and I'll catch